We continue now at the top of Daf Chav Chesamid Beis Meseches Shevuos. This is Shevuos Daf 28b. The Gemara continues with the statement of Rava. The case again is where a person says a shvuah that he's not going to eat a particular loaf if he eats another loaf. So essentially there's one kikar which is Isser, that's the one he's making the shvuah on, and the other one is the Tanai, the other one is the conditional one, that if he eats that one, then the other one becomes Asr. And so Rava now continues and says, Shtehen b'mezid, let's say he eats both of them on purpose, so then it depends on the order. Achle le'tnoi, let's say he eats the conditional one first. V'hadar achle le'isure, and then he's the one that's prohibited. So once he eats the conditional one, now that causes that the other one is now prohibited to him. The shvuah is now going to be chal because of the fact that the condition has been satisfied. So then mechayev. So then in that situation, he is going to be chayev. And Rashi explains, Shtein b'mezid achle le'tnoi v'hadar achle le'isure chayev malchus. He's not going to be chayev a carbon here because it was b'mezid. He's going to be chayev malchus. Sharei b'achila rishona zocher hayashvuaso. Again, Rashi explained on the previous Amud that in the first action that he takes, the first eating, he has to remember the shvuah. Otherwise, it's not considered ha'adam b'shvuah, and it's not chal at all. So here, in this case, the first eating caused it to be chal. V'chol ha'shvuah olav lesor b'shniya. The shvuah is chal. The second one is now prohibited. U'kasha'achal shniya hisra bo hasras vade. When he now eats the second one, they can give him a full warning, a certain warning. Al tochal, don't eat it. Sharei nishba 11 esra, because again, there's a shvuah upon it and it becomes prohibited, and that's why in this case chayev malchus. But let's say it would be the reverse. Achle le'isure. Let's say first he would eat the one that's prohibited. V'hadar achle le'tanoi, and then he would eat the one that's conditional. Again, this is a case of shtehen b'mezid. So here in this situation, it's actually a hasra suffik, because at the time he's eating the one that's prohibited, we don't really know if it's prohibited. That's all going to depend on whether he satisfies the condition or not. So that would depend on whether hasra suffik is a hasra. And so the Gemara says, Pluksa Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. That would be a machlokas amoraim between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Laman damar hasra suffik shma hasra, according to the one who says that hasra suffik is a hasra chayev, so then he would be liable. Laman damar lav shma hasra, according to the one who says it's not called a warning, so pater, so then he would be exempt. And the Gemara continues with another case, Talan zu bezu. Again, let's say he has two loaves in front of him and he makes them both dependent one on the other. Meaning to say, he says about the first one, this one is usr if I eat the second one. And he says the same thing about the second one. This one is usr if I eat the first one. So both of them have an isser shavuot upon them. And both of them are also a condition for the other one. As the Gemara now explains, he says, Lo ochel zu im ochel zu. I'm not going to eat this one if I eat this one. And lo ochel zu im ochel zu. And I'm not going to eat this second one if I eat the first one. V'achal zu bezadon atzma uveshigagas chaverta. Now let's say he eats this one bezadon atzma uveshigagas chaverta. It's on purpose for itself, but shogeg for the other one. We'll see Rashi in a moment. V'zu bezadon atzma uveshigagas chaverta. He does the same thing with the other one. It's bezadon atzma and shigagas chaverta. So pater. So in this situation, he is going to be exempt. Rashi explains, Talan zu bezu shtehen kin mefarish v'yazil. They're both dependent on each other. Nimsu shtehen iser u'shtehen tanai. Comes out that they're both iser and they're both also tanai. Again, the iser is the one with which the shvuah is upon, and the tanai is the one which is conditional that creates the iser for the other one. In this case, they're both iser and they are both tanai. And so the Gemara said, Achal zu bezadon atzmo v'shigagas chaverta. What does that mean? It means as follows: Zachar hu shenishba aleh im yochal chaverta. He remembers, let's say, about the first one. He knows that he took a shvuah on this first one if he eats the other one. Aval shachoachu, but he forgets at that time shenishba al chaverta im yochal zu, that if he eats this first one, there now is a shvuah on the second one. At the time that he eats the first one, he remembers that it's prohibited, conditional upon the second, but he doesn't remember that it is also conditional and creates a prohibition on the second. V'chala olav shvuas atzma, and so the shvuah on itself, the shvuah, let's say on the first one, that's going to take effect. Shem yochal chaverta yischayev al zulam afrei. If he goes ahead and eats the other one, that's going to satisfy the condition, and retroactively, there's going to be a problem with eating the first one. Avol shvuas chaverta lo chala olav. However, the shvuah on the second one actually does not take effect. Sheba'achila rishona hayu shtei hashvuas ru'uyos lachol. Because again, it always goes by the first action, the first eating. That's when the shvuos take effect. And if he didn't know when he ate that first one that it was a conditional one for the second one's shvuah never takes effect. Again, at the time he ate the first loaf, he did not remember that that was a condition for the second loaf. And so therefore, again, the shvuah for the first one can be chal, but the shvuah on the second one cannot be chal. And Rashi continues, Zu bezadon atzma v'shigagas chaverta. Again, the case is that each one is eaten bezadon atzma. He's aware of the fact that there's a shvua on that one, but it's b'shigagas chaverta. He's never aware that it is conditional, that it creates an isser on the other one. And so the Gemara said, Potter is going to be exempt. And Rashi explains, Bain mi malchus shniya, he's going to be Potter, whether we're talking about malchus on the one. And the reason why we'd be talking about malchus on the second one is shehu mezid, because in that case, that would be considered a situation of mezid. At the time that he ate the second one, he was eating that one b'mezid. Again, the first one was a condition to the second one, and so you would have thought maybe there should be malchus, but again, as Rashi is going to explain, there is no malchus. And bein mi karban shel rishono, he's also Potter from a carbon on the first one. Why would have you thought a carbon on the first one? Because again, the time of the violation on the first one was when he satisfied the condition by eating the second one, which he did b'shogeg, so you might think there's a carbon, but there is no carbon, he's exempt. Shavar ala shogeg lemafreya, again, that's the one, that first one, he transgresses retroactively b'shogeg when he eats the second one, and mi malchus hashniya Potter. And so Rashi continues and explains from the malchus on the second one, the reason why he's exempt, the reason why Potter is kiddufarishus. It's like I already explained, shalochala olav shvua mitchila, because there when he ate the first one, he was not aware at that time that it was a condition that it creates the isra on the second one, and by that first action, if the person is not aware, it's not called ha'adam b'shvua, and the shvua actually never takes effect. So the shvua on the second one never took effect at all. And also, when retroactively you want to say that there's a carbon on the first one, because again, when he ate the first one at that time it was b'mezid, and then the second one at that time he's satisfying the condition b'shogeg. Well, the reason why in that situation there's no carbon is shalo haisa shgaga ba'achilasa, because the eating of it, there was not a shogeg at the eating of that one. Va'anon shgaga ba'achilas iser ba'inan. We need there to be a at the time of the eating of the Isser. Now, even though there was a mistake at the time that he transgressed the Shvuah, meaning at the time that he ate the second one, that's when the transgression actually occurs retroactively. But still, that does not create a chiyuv of carbon. Because the carbon has to come for the first one. And that achila was beheter v'lo karina bei techeta bishkaga. We don't call that techeta bishkaga. And the Gemara continues, again in this case where they're each dependent on the other one. So zu b'shigagas atzmo v'zadun chaverta, let's say this one, the first one, he eats b'shigagas atzma, meaning to say he does not remember that there was a shvua on this particular loaf. However, he does remember that this was a condition to the other loaf, that's zadun chaverta, and the same on the second, v'zu b'shigagas atzma uv'zadun chaverta. The second one also he eats b'shigagas atzma. At the time he eats it, he does not remember there was a shvua on that particular loaf, but it's zadun chaverta. Again, he does remember that this was a condition to the first one, so then chayiv, so then he is liable. And Rashi explains that this chayiv over here is actually only talking about the second one, because on the second loaf, so when he ate the first loaf, he was b'mezid, and so therefore that's ha'adam b'shvuah. His first action was b'mezid in terms of the fact that it was conditional, and so the condition is satisfied. And then he eats the second one b'shogeg, so that's a normal case of b'shogeg. He brings a carbon. In terms of the first one, since his first action was shigagas atzma with regards to the first one, he didn't even remember that there was a shvuah on that, so it's not ha'adam b'shvuah, it never takes effect. And so again, Rashi says the liability over here is specifically on the second loaf. And the Gemara continues, let's say shtehen b'shogeg, let's say both of them are b'shogeg, so then obviously we're going to say Potter. According to Rashi, again, if the first action is b'shogeg, nothing takes effect. And shtehen b'mezid, let's say they're both b'mezid, so now he eats the first one at the time that he eats the first one, so he realizes that that one there's a shavua upon it, and additionally he also understands that that one is for the other one, it's a condition, it satisfies the condition. So the Gemara says for that ashniya mechayev. So first of all, in the second one he's certainly liable. That's going to be a liability to malchus, because he eats the first one b'mezid, satisfies the condition for the second one, and now they can give a warning for the second one, so he's liable. Now arishona, now on the first loaf, so at the time he eats the first loaf, he doesn't know whether the condition is going to be satisfied or not. Since he doesn't know if the condition is going to be satisfied, that's asra safek, and so we go back to pluk. So the Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. That's the machlokus between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Mori says, Afanon nami tanina, we learn this in a Mishnah as well. And Rashi explains, Afa non nami tanina kidu Rava. This means that we have a Mishnah that supports Rava. Shahatola shvua b'davar acher. Again, if somebody makes a shvua dependent on something else, it's conditional. V'kayim hatanai tchila, and he fulfills that condition first. Tzarech sheyeh zocher l'shvuaso ba'os hashah. He needs to remember the shvua at that moment. V'imlav, and if he does not remember at that moment, at the satisfaction of the condition, ein hashvua chala, then the shvua will not be chal. And again, we have a Mishnah like that. This is a Mishnah in Nedarim. The Mishnah says, Nidre Shgagos Ketzad. What's called Nidre Shgagos? So Nidre Shgagos is the following case. Konem imachalti vim shasisi. Let's say he says konem, he makes some kind of neder, if I eat or if I drink. At the time he thought that he had not eaten, he thought he had not drunk anything. V'nizkar sha'achal v'shasa, but then he remembers that he did eat or drink. Or she'eni ochel, she'eni shosa, or let's say the condition is that I'm not going to eat, I'm not going to drink. Shachach v'yachal v'shasa, and then he forgets and he eats and drinks. Mutter, we're going to say mutter in such a situation. Now that's by Nedarim. Rav is talking about Shevuos. However, V'tani Allah, but it was taught on that, Keshem shenidre shkagos mutarin, just like Nedarim that our shkagos are mutter, kach Shevuos shkagos mutara, so too Shevuos that our shkagos are mutter. And so you see, like Rava, because of the fact that there was a shogeg in the beginning, we'll see Rashi in a moment exactly what the case is, but because of the fact that there was a shogeg in the beginning, that's why it's mutter, that's why it never takes effect. Rashi explains, Nidre Shkagos Ketzad, Katani Reshar Boned Dorim, Hitiru Chachamim. The beginning of this Mishnah says that there are 4 Nedarim that the Chachamim say are mutter, and it's a whole list over there. One of them is Nidre Shkagos. And so what is that? Konem imachalti is as follows. Konem alai davar ploni. Take some type of konem, some neder, that something is prohibited. Imachalti hayom. If I ate today, that's the condition. V'hu savar shaloachal. Now at the time he made it, he thought he had not eaten. V'nizkar shachal, but then he remembers he did eat. Also haneder bottle, that neder is bottle, also davar, and the thing that he said was usher is going to be totally mutter, because at the time that he made the neder, he did not remember about that condition. He didn't remember that it was fulfilled. Konem shani ochel. Now let's say he says a konem that I will eat. Konem olai davar ploni imani ochel hayom. Again, now he's saying a konem on something if I eat today. V'shachach shvua, so he forgets his shvua. V'achal v'shasa, and then he goes ahead and eats and drinks. Mutter ba'oso davar. Again, he's mutter on that item. Hainu de Rava. That's what Rava said. Shetzarach she'zocher leneder b'shas kiyam hatanai. That he has to remember the neder at the time that he's satisfying the condition, and if he doesn't, then it's going to be mutter. Now that's talking about Nedarim, but V'tani Allah kashem shenidre shkagos mutarin v'chulu. We learned on that, just like it's true by Nedarim, it's true by Shavuos as well. V'hainu kid and that's essentially what Rava said. And the Gemara continues, Eifa tani Shavuos bei Rabba. Eifa, he learned Shavuos by the yeshiva of Rabba. Paga bei Avime achua, and then Avime, his brother, he met up with him. And Amar Lei, he said to him, he wanted to test him on Shavuos, he said to him, Shavua shalo achalti, Shavua shalo achalti ma. What if a person says, a Shavua that I did not eat, and then he repeats it, a Shavua that I did not eat? What's the halach over there? Amar Lei said to him, Eino chayiv alachas, he's only chayiv one, because you ain't Shavua chalal Shavua, once you make that first Shavua, so you're not adding anything with the second Shavua, so he said there's only one liability. Amar Lei said to him, Ishtabish, you're actually confused, you're mistaken, because Harei Yotza Shavua l'sheker, because over here, it's a past tense Shvua. So if he said a Shvua I didn't eat, so then the moment he says the Shvua, that's Shvua sheker and he's liable. And if he does that again, then he's liable again, because this is not a future tense in terms of prohibiting something upon himself. This is just simply a Shvua sheker, and therefore he told Eifa he's mistaken about this. Then he tested him on another case. Shavua shelo ochel teisha ve'eser. Let's say he takes a Shvua that he's not going to eat 9, and then he says a Shvua that he's not going to eat 10. Mahu, what's the halach over there? And again, the only way the second Shvua can be chal is if it adds something, and so he responded chayiv. He said you're liable because you've added. First it was 9, and now it's 10. So therefore chayiv al kol achas ve'achas is going to be chayiv on each one, each Shvua. Amar Lei again, he said to him, Ishtabish, you're confused over here as well, because when the person says a Shvua that he's not going to eat 9, so in that situation, the moment he eats 9, he is violated. When he says a Shvua that he's not going to eat 10, so 9 would not be a violation. That's actually a more lenient Shvua, so it actually has added nothing. Because Itesha lo achel, if a person doesn't eat 9, then Eser lo achel, then he doesn't eat 10. So 10 is actually the more lenient lenient, or the less inclusive Shavuot, we should say, and therefore it doesn't add anything, and that's why he had made a mistake over there. He's only liable one. And so then we reverse the case. He asked him the following situation. Shavua shalo ochel eser v'teisha. Let's say first he says a Shavua that he's not going to eat 10, and then he says a Shavua that he's not going to eat 9. So mahu, what would be the halach over there? So he said to him in that situation, Eino chayiv ela achas. He said in that situation, only chayiv 1. And again, a similar kind of confusion. Amar lei said to Mishtabish, you're making a mistake. Because Eser hu delo achel, because when he says the first Shavuot that he's not going to eat 10, he's saying he's not going to eat 10. Hatesha mi'achel, but he is saying that he's going to eat 9. And so therefore, when he then says a Shavuot of 9, that Shavuot is chal as well. And so therefore, in that situation, you actually have two liabilities, two Shavuos in that case. The Gemara continues, Amar Abaya says, Zimnin de mashkachas lo lahad Eifa. Sometimes we can find that what Eifa said actually is correct. Kedemar, like the master said, the master here refers to Rabbah. The Amar Rabbah, because Rabbah said, Shvuah shelo ochel te'enim va'anovim. Let's say a person takes an oath not to eat figs and grapes. V'chazar v'yamar shvuah shelo ochel te'enim. Then he goes ahead and takes an oath that he's not going to eat figs. And Rashi explains, Zimnin de mashkachas lo Eifa. Sometimes it comes out that what Eifa says is correct. The Shvuah shelo ochel eser v'teisha. Let's say again he takes a shvuah that he's not going to eat 10, and then he takes a shvuah that he's not going to eat 9. V'yachal eser, and then he goes ahead and does eat 10. Sometimes you'll find de'eno chayiv ela achas. Sometimes you will find that he's only chayiv 1. Again, even though what one would have thought is that when he makes the shvuah that he's not going to eat 10, so that means only 10. When he then makes a shvuah 9, so he actually is adding something. So it should actually be two liabilities. But sometimes what Eifa said is correct. Kidamar, like the master said, the master is Rabbah. The Yamar Mar, because the master said, Shvuah shelo ochel te'enim va'anovim yachad b'yom echad. Let's say he takes a shvuah, he's not going to eat figs and grapes together in one day. Avol te'enim lechudayu ochel. That would actually imply that figs alone, it would be fine to eat that. V'chazar v'yamar shvuah shelo ochel te'enim. Then he goes ahead and takes a shvuah not to eat figs. V'yava ochel te'enim va'anovim b'yom echad. Now, if he were to eat figs and grapes in one day, haya mechayev tarti. So then he actually would be liable to 2. Because when he eats the figs, that's a liability on the second shvuah. And then when he goes ahead and completes that and eats the grapes, then he's actually going to be liable on the first. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Chav Tes Amud Aleph.